Happy Friday. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, something that the other group is actually not going to be doing because I want to make sure that we have a nice finishing point before you guys start your weekend. And I think you'll like this activity because you guys actually inspired it. Throughout the course of the week, I've heard a few things from students that I think are incredibly interesting and really make me excited for the rest of this year. I've heard two things. Number one, I've heard, why are we learning about these white dudes and one women? And number two, I've heard really good questions about what might they think about today. So, sure, we have John Locke with his natural rights, and he seems to keep really emphasizing this principle that everybody has rights no matter what. But what would John Locke say right now about, let's say, the issue with illegal immigration? Sure, we have Mary Wollstonecraft, and she talks about women's rights and feminism, but what would she say about the current debate in the Supreme Court over Roe v. Wade? Sure, we have Beccaria, and he talks about cruel and unusual punishment, but what would this person say about the use of torture? Sure, we have Rousseau, and he says that everybody should be free to do what they want and pursue what they want, but what happens when you have millions of people living in the same country? How can you get them to work together? Sure, we have Thomas Hobbes, who's kind of like this curmudgeon old man who believes in authority, but what happens when that authority becomes corrupt? Sure, we have Montesquieu with the three branches of government, but what happens when those three branches are no longer really functioning the way they should? And then finally, yes, we have Voltaire, freedom of speech, sure, but what about hate speech? What about racist speech? What about discriminatory speech? What if they were here today in 2020? That's what we're going to work on today. So, you're going to be looking at 3 different news stories that I just collected at random that I thought had some pretty interesting connections to these people. And I'm curious if we could drop them in the year 2020, or in the year of these news stories anyway, what they might say in response. So, the first one I mentioned to you is China versus Winnie the Pooh. The story about how the Republic of China has actually censored access to Winnie the Pooh for a very specific political reason. So I'm curious what you guys think about that story. The second story you're going to be looking into is about Saudi Arabia and women's rights. And I know Mary Wollstonecraft obviously is a simple connection to this, but I want you to think bigger than her too. Who else might have a strong opinion about this case? And then finally, the last story is how our world changed. I picked a short story about a student who started a Black Lives Matter protest this past summer, and I would love to hear what you think about each of these 3 stories and what our philosophers might think. So for each story, I need you to pick one philosopher who you think would have a strong opinion about it. And number 2, I need you to explain why or how you think they might respond. Really broadly, I would like you to imagine that they literally were here with their pantaloons and powdered wigs and all, and what they might say about the current situation in this year. There is a spot at the end that I would love to hear from you. Are there any other news stories that you've heard about recently that you think our philosophers may have strong opinions about? I picked 3, but there's tons going on in the year 2020. So I'd like you to list the news story, maybe put a link in there, or you can just describe it. Maybe you wanted to mention the debate. Which philosopher do you think could have a strong opinion, and why do you believe that philosopher would have a strong opinion? How might they respond? So again, our agenda for this Friday. First and foremost, small housekeeping item. Please double check that you have submitted your short answer from yesterday, as well as your study guide. And then the second thing is I need you to complete the activity that is right below this video if they were here today, and be sure to submit it. I'd love to hear what you think. Other than that, please enjoy your weekend and email me if you have any questions. I hope you have fun with this, and I hope you're interested in trying to imagine these people in our world today.